Hey, welcome back, peeps. I hope you guys are enjoying your spring break because I have spring break right now. So I decided to make a podcast today because I had time and I had a really interesting conversation with Elsy Martinez. We touched on so many things, including gender and how we view gender in society. We talked about religion and the future of religion and if religion is going to be diminished in the future because of how young people tend to kind of just deviate from being religious. And we just had a really interesting conversation, and I hope you guys truly enjoy this podcast because the conversation we had was truly it was awesome. So let's get right into it. Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Ozigi Chronicles. I am here with Elsy Martinez, and by the way, if you guys, well, you guys can't see, but we're sitting on the floor, which is really different, and I like it because I don't know, I feel like I'm in a different country. I already told you this, but introduce yourself, madam.
Hi, so my name is Elsy Martinez. I am a friend of Munir, extended from,
His girl.
met him from his girlfriend, Fatima Maldonado.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, well, I do because I do find you an interesting person, and I was like, I do definitely need to have a podcast with you because you seem to, know a lot about a lot of stuff. So I decided that a podcast would be great. And prior to this podcast, we're talking about the DRTY. I know you said you didn't want to talk about it, but I find it really interesting about the gene thing and how you said gender in society is something that we have simplified so much. And this was a podcast you're listening to because we're talking about podcasts before, but go ahead.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday and I decided to listen to it again today because it's kind of difficult to kind of just like grasp the idea of how complex the human body is. And in this podcast called The Gonads X and Y, it first starts off with speaking about the X and Y chromosomes and and it goes into this research study that was done in the late 90s or early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly, but it was talking about there was this research done on mice, and they took the subjects of mice and they removed this gene called the DRT1.
Okay, so correction. It's actually DMRT1. I didn't give Elsy enough time to prepare for this episode, so I'm going to do her a favor and correct her right now. But yeah, go back to the podcast.
And they saw that this gene, once it was removed from a male mice,
Mm-hmm.
they took part of the testicle of the male mice, and they saw that when they removed this gene, the sperm within the male testes began to take form of more of like of ovaries, which is interesting and something that people have never seen in the
Before,
scientific community. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like I take this class called the Philosophy of Sex and Gender, and we were actually listening to this podcast in class, and I was like, oh, this is very interesting. So I decided to take some time out of my time and kind of better understand exactly how is this working.
Yeah.
Because it's also seen in other species, and it's found in the human body.
This gene, this
This gene
what's
is
it called?
found in DRT1.
Yeah, DRT1?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then there's this other gene called the SRY. It's kind of like, sorry gene, sorry you're female, you're male.
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you see in other countries too, you see that there's these cases where there's this case in some place in Dominican Republic where at the age of 12 or so, they have this community where where once a kid hits puberty, he begins to change his sex naturally, and there's really no explanation to it
So wait,
far.
so when the kid reaches the age of puberty, he chooses, or whatever respective gender
It
chooses?
just happens, and
That's it.
Yeah.
But is it because of this gene? Because if it's, do they remove the gene, or do they tamper with the gene in any way, shape, or form for them
No,
to change?
it's something that naturally happens. It's like, how do you say it? I don't remember exactly where in the Dominican Republic, but I do know it's in the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
And it's like there's this community that there's actually a documentary on it. It's called 9 Months That Made You. That's where I first heard about this, and I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so take for example, I'm born a girl, right? I'm born female biologically. At the age of 12, my body decides to change its sex entirely. I begin to develop a penis, and I begin to develop, I begin to lose breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to, my testosterone levels are, rising, and then facial hair and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
So physically, there's
people.
a change. There's a change physically.
There's a change physically. Yes.
What's so special about them that this happens to only that community in the Dominican Republic? It doesn't happen to everybody else.
I'm pretty sure they must happen in other places. Actually, I think I sent Fatima this article where what was it called? It was about how do you say it? I forgot how you damn it, hold on. So it's like so there is this program
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes a kid may be born with both sexes, right?
Yeah.
And what do you call it? I don't even know how to I can't.
Wait, what do you
really
mean born? Sorry to interrupt you, but what do you mean born with both sexes? Are they? Because I do know there's sometimes you're either born a man, a woman, or there's something in between. But it's very rare that it actually happens. It's like some crazy number, like 0.001% that you're born both genders because something went wrong in the womb.
So I don't think it's something went wrong in the womb. It's just like, I think we don't really know much about the human body for us to like continue simplifying
A concept like gender.
Yeah, things like gender. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm trying to. I just can't remember exactly
What article?
I don't really remember.
It's okay.
Exactly.
You can search it up. It's okay though.
Yeah, it's
No, but it's an interesting thing because that's really weird, especially in the society now where, something like being transgender is becoming more and more mainstream as compared to, let's say, 20 or 30 years ago. With especially someone like Caitlyn Jenner, who truly shook up, society when she announced that she's transitioning to a woman, and of course, kind of have a lot of a struggle between these like LGBTQ thing, especially with the conservatives and Republicans who are kind of against it, and the liberals who are more open to it. But as a whole, isn't it in a little bit just different and weird that someone who is born one gender, no one knows, people are saying maybe this is a mental problem, some people saying this is how they truly feel, but it's something I've never ever seen before. No, because I do know, like, there are some people back then, especially the Romans, they started focusing on gender a lot, and this is what happened to our society now. A lot of people start focusing on gender, changing gender, and people, let's say, someone who's really conservative in religion would say this is going against God. So, yeah, I think it's really weird to see these developments coming up in society now. Something with gender, which prior to this time and age, everyone's like, if you're born a boy, you're a boy, you do boy things, or if you're born a female, you do female things.
Yeah. I mean, it's I've always been intrigued with like the Native American culture, and I read some time ago that within their culture they have more than two sexes. They have this third sex they call the two spirits, I believe, and it's more accepted than Western country.
Society,
Yeah. Whereas like we always try to categorize everything into two specific categories, boy and girl, good, bad,
Yeah.
poor, rich.
Yeah.
There's never like a middle ground or trying to expand into different regions that I guess we would redefine as bizarre, which is sad, but I think we're very closed up to different possibilities.
Why do you think we're closed up to different possibilities? Are we making this something so simple into a more complicated issue, or is it always like this?
I think people just like keeping things simple and not trying to complicate it more than it should be.
Because
I think that's why we
we try to simplify it, because the status quo is if you're born with a penis and have a certain chromosome, you are a man. Now we could go ahead and talk about the things that are related to being a man, like not playing with dolls. That's more a women thing, or the color blue. Of course, that's more social construct, and that's totally something different. But at birth, the thing is, it's either a penis or a vagina, and if you're born with one of those, that's why we classify. Okay, you're a man, you're a boy. Whatever else happens, whatever social constructs that you tend to believe in, that's something totally different. But in the biological level, maybe that's something that we shouldn't complicate.
I mean, but then you're just you're kind of closing out these other cases where this is not the case, where people might change their sex as time goes in a natural biological level, and it's maybe it's not explainable yet, but I think science would be able to explain it further on into the future.
Okay, explain their change.
Yeah, the change in the
let's say transgender people. Like, why do you mean science is gonna explain why they choose to change?
In the natural level of like we're speaking about
the
Dominican
yeah
public community where their sex changes and there's almost like no explanation to it. Something like that, I guess.
Hold on, do you know the article's name, or we can search it up right now? Dominican Republic. That's really crazy. I've never heard of something like that, where your body physically changes as time goes on.
Okay, so it's called the extraordinary case of the goivedosis. Goivedosis.
How do you spell goive?
Guevedoces. Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy.
It is interesting.
Okay, so what type of speaking of societal constructs, what type of societal constructs do you think are wrong to be assigned to? Of course, you said gender might be a more complicated issue, but I tend to believe the opposite, of where it's more of a simple thing. But perhaps we should see in the future how this all plays out. But what type of social constructs do you believe might be outdated as society goes on?
I mean, as of what I can think of right now.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I really don't care what you call me. You can call me male, female, she, they.
Yeah.
It's like these labels that we're assigning each other, and I think it's just maybe it complicates things. Maybe it just simplifies things. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Because labels tend to, it kind of shuts down the options. Like, I know I think about labels when you talk about belief systems. Say someone's a capitalist, or someone is like a Muslim or something, or a Christian. When you talk about labels in that sense of, let's say, belief systems, I think that's disingenuous, because I could be a capitalist, but I could have some, I want to be kind of a socialist. It's not something that is a closed circle. You could be open to different things. So I could be a capitalist, but I believe in nationalized healthcare for all. That's not something that a capitalist would believe. Or it could be, let's say, something like political parties, like Democrats and Republicans. You could be a Republican and believe is something that a liberal would believe in, right? But as I said, when it comes to labels such as something like gender,
Right.
it's kind of a touchy subject, you know?
Yeah, because the idea of capitalism and socialism, those are all just belief systems.
Yeah, but with gender, it's something that people are saying, oh, it's biology. This is that. Is it one or two? Of course, there's that third option. There may be another, a man or a female, but it's a little subsection of people who are, you know, they're not the status quo where like you're a man or woman. There's something wrong with the gender. Or something went wrong during their pregnancy. But like I would say for most of history, if I'm not mistaken, it's been like this, right? Where you're either a man or a female.
Yeah.
But as I said, for labels, for other things, like for belief systems, it's something that I think is too simple.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like labels tend to close out these different possibilities and kind of just like bring some form of discomfort to people who just don't feel like they fit in.
Yeah, to that
I
label.
feel like everyone should have some form of feel some form of acceptance in society, even if it's. I mean, this is what I've always said. If what you're doing isn't harming anyone else or harming you, then we should be fine with it.
That's true.
I would say.
I mean, I think about this, and I thought about like this weird example. So let's say I'm throwing shit on a wall, and you're just walking past by. I'm not harming you, right? But like, you're gonna feel some type of way. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, but that's kind of different. That's just like disgusting.
Yeah, but I'm not harming you though, right? That's actually I'm not harming you.
The environment, I guess.
I'm not harming the environment. It's shit that could.
Well, people are. Is it a public place? If it's at your house, and fine.
Let's say you're walking to Roosevelt Mall and you just see Munir Ozigi throwing shit on the wall. I'm not harming you.
Well, the property isn't yours.
But I'm not harming you. It's harming you. That's the thing.
It's not harming me, but it's harming someone that property belongs to.
What if someone allows me to do it, or the owner of the mall allows me to?
Then there is consent. You can do it. It belongs to him. The property belongs to him, and then you can do as you wish because he gave you that consent.
So, but isn't that? I wouldn't want that in my ideal society. I wouldn't want someone just randomly throwing shit at somewhere or something, regardless if someone allowed you or not, because that's truly disgusting. It's not. It's not harming me, but I'm disgusted. It's not somewhere. I'm not hurt. But that's why I feel like I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, that is true. If I'm not harming anybody, we should accept it because. But there's certain things where, let's say you see someone getting bullied, it's not harming you, but you're gonna.
It's harming someone else though, and that's the idea. Don't harm if your belief doesn't harm. If your belief or your practice isn't harming anyone else or you or anyone or me, then you are fine.
Wait, if your belief, what you want, right?
If you're not harming, I would say.
Yeah, because I really did think about it.
Though.
Yeah, you could disagree, but the harm that's when. But like then you have to discuss like what is harm? Is it emotional harm, physical harm? Because if I say, like, let's say
emotional and physical.
Emotional, physical, but that's impossible because I could say something that could emotionally harm you, and you could say something that could emotionally harm me, or anybody could say something that could emotionally harm the other person. But I think there has to be some leeway to this. So let's say having a debate or something, and or let's say let's say back then where racism was really rampant in society, and someone said the N word, the hard R, like really hard. It harmed me.
Dehumanizing though.
It's dehuman, but it harms me though as a black man or a black person in general. So it's like, how do you react to that situation?
Because that's not creating an unsafe space for you.
How so?
Well, it's during the time of like discrimination towards people of color. Then, they were implementing this idea of a monstrosity, a unhumanized human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's completely different now, where they had created a completely unsafe space that's saying it's okay for you to speak to people of color like this, and therefore opening a space of even physical violence as well.
Yes, true. Because as long as you don't harm somebody, it seems really good on paper, but like when it comes to practice, we always have to. You never know. I can unintentionally harm you somehow, some way, and I don't even know. usually with my words or my actions, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Why is he doing that? Because there's no way you could live your whole life without harming anybody.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, and also I was thinking the other day of how, we look back then at those times of, let's say, discrimination, or where women are getting discriminated against too. I think you couldn't get a divorce, right, unless your husband approved of it. And I was wondering, what things would our children or our grandchildren look upon us that we were really wrong for? Because we tend to think that we're all good and stuff. Like someone from the South who owned multiple slaves and abusing them back in the 1700s probably thought, okay, history is gonna treat me well because I'm just doing business. I'm trying to make a living by exploiting other people. So what things do you think we do in society today that in 100, 200 years people are gonna look back at us and say we were barbarians?
I think we're still doing the same things that we were doing before. We just have renamed them and completely changed the system and how it works.
Yeah, can you give me an example of that?
I mean, systemic racism, I think that's something that still exists. It's just, it's so hard to pinpoint because of how we have re-established them into I guess the so-called justice system.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we continue doing things that we've seen through time have not benefited us, and yet is an easier route, and so we continue doing it. Maybe like climate change and I don't even know. I can't even pinpoint exactly.
But climate change is a big one too, especially for people in our generation.
Sure, yeah.
I think also this poll is saying, to Generation Z, which is us, what is your biggest concern? And climate change was, I believe, the number one thing because, we grew up in school. They taught us about climate change and global warming, and we probably saw that slide of the polar bear and how he lost his or her home. You see all the ice melting, and there's these movies they created. The thing is, the Earth has always changed climates, but the question, like the specific question is, to what effect are humans affecting the climates?
Well, I was actually reading one of a document. It was released by one of the climate change research facilities.
Yes.
And they said that I believe temperatures have risen about 1.9 degrees. I think it was Celsius or Fahrenheit. I don't remember. But of course, yes, climate change has happened for centuries, and it always has happened, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is, how rapid is it going now?
Yeah.
It's going at a rapid pace,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's scary because we are seeing the effects now than the effects that maybe our parents, grandparents had saw, and that's why there wasn't much action upon it or any form of emphasis to this may happen in a couple of years when your kids have kids.
Yeah. It's what a weird time to live in because climate change is something that's always happened, but now it's something we're paying more attention to day and day. Mm-hmm. And like, why do you think people are not accepting this idea of climate change? There's some people, especially like let's say Donald Trump in the 2016 election during the debates, he was like, it's just something that's not real. It's manufactured by China or something like that.
Well, because of the amount of cost that would go into trying to fix climate change, it's a huge amount of money that the government would have to take out of their pockets, and But then again, it's these very own big facilities and governmental ran operations that are the very source of why climate change is happening at a rapid pace.
Because, let's say something like big oil is something that's really prevalent in today's world, especially we see this war in Russia and Ukraine, where oil is very important. Even fighting wars, heating your home, oil is very important. A lot of people still clinging to the idea that oil is good for our earth. Of course, there's going to be some limits. You can't have big oil spills in the Atlantic Ocean and everything is fine, because the oil does do some harm to the environment. But people usually tend to just, let's stick with oil. But as long as it doesn't, spill in the ocean or spill in the forest, we should still use it. So why should we, I guess, seek to transition into more greener forms of energy? Because a lot of people say it's gonna cost a lot of money to switch to these green forms. And I feel like in society or throughout history, people just don't do things because they're good. There has to be some incentive to make sure that things like this come to pass. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
Sort of.
Yeah, like, okay, let's say for example, I keep using slavery here. I use slavery, but the cotton gin was invented, which was a faster way to process cotton. So white people didn't need black people as much to help them pick cotton. So they were like, okay, yeah, they were kind of, I guess, more open to letting them go because of this economic advancements. Mm-hmm. Or let's say something like the 2-day weekend that we have. There was kind of some incentive for people to say, or employers to say, okay, yeah, you could take 2 days off, Saturday, Sunday, no school, because people, I guess, they won't work as hard if they don't rest. They just don't do it out of the kindness of the heart, saying, you know what, take 2 days off. There has to be some reason, a better reason of doing that.
Like taking off 2 days?
Yeah, like a weekend, yeah.
I think that's just because of people decide to save Sunday for church, and then Saturday is just like your own day.
No, it was before. It was people worked 7 days a week, but because of labor laws and a lot of unions fought it, the employers and the government, and they were like, yeah, maybe we should have. But the whole idea is that in society, things change not because of altruism, if you know what I mean. It's not because, I'm a good person and I want to look out for you. There's kind of some selfish reason. Like, I'm going to give you 2 days off because I'm not going to pay you as much, as working 7 days than working 5 days, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's kind of some incentive. But like we see with climate change, people still love oil, and I don't think there's really any incentive to change to something like windmills. It's a whole weird situation. I don't know.
I haven't really done my research on it for me to even, speak much on it.
Yeah, same here. I have no idea about climate change. I'm just like...
No, I know the basics of what climate change is and what's happening to, into the world. But I think the main reason that people don't want to, I guess the government doesn't want to take these different routes is because of money, and that's really it. They rather spend millions and millions of dollars on weapons and things that will even do further damage to the world than to undo the damage we have already caused.
What extent do you believe that money is the root of all evil?
Do I believe? I think to a certain extent, yes, money can blind the man's heart, into doing things that are just like, what the hell?
Did you hear of Elon Musk trying to buy Twitter?
Trying to buy what?
Trying to buy Twitter. Elon Musk.
I've heard of that. I mean, I don't know. That guy has money to buy anything at this point, so wouldn't be surprised if he tries to buy the planet next.
Do you think money is, or like the accumulation of wealth is immoral?
I think if that's difficult.
Yeah.
Only because I think it all depends on what you're doing with the money.
But isn't it their money? I could do whatever. Someone could do whatever.
Yeah, just as long as don't let money control you.
Yeah.
I guess some people are able to get the riches of physical riches of life, but then they become slaves to the money that
They earn, yeah.
that was supposed to make life easier.
Yeah, okay. And I know you had your phases of like, socialism and communism, whatever. But in these systems, the rich are despised, and they seize their wealth for the common good and for the communal benefits. So in a society, in your ideal society, in your ideal world, in your idea of what a perfect society is, do you think that people should be able to accumulate as much wealth as they possibly could?
I mean, maybe there should be a limit.
Yeah.
I think there should always be a limit for almost everything.
Yeah, that's true. Almost everything. I think everything should be a limit, for sure.
But what I see that's wrong is that we have these people who have like mansions and like these huge condos and stacks of money that maybe they can't even use in a lifetime, or maybe their grandkids cannot even use the money they have acquired. And then we have people that on the streets with nothing, no food or anything like that. So maybe accumulation of money creates a form of imbalance in the world.
Like the homeless people.
Yeah. But then again, I'm not trying to say that put the blame on the rich, but I'm saying that there should be a balance and a form of equal distribution, if that makes sense. But then again, that kind of sounds like a socialist society.
That is true. Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like if people are able to like accumulate these huge loads of money, then why do we still have people that have no homes or no food for the day? I think that's kind of sad.
That's true.
It's kind of sad, but I know people tend to say that you shouldn't put emotions into place when it comes to things like this, but I think it's just a humanly thing to do.
That is true.
Be empathetic.
Yeah.
To
other
what
people.
To your surroundings and not be so selfish.
That is true, because there are emotional arguments to everything, but then when you come to reality is not like your emotions. There's completely two different things, and of course, I kind of fight myself with this. I do consider myself to be a capitalist because it has helped a lot of people historically. It's definitely, if you see in the case of China, or even Asian countries in general, they had closed economies before, and they opened their economies and have a free market system, and it has genuinely helped a lot of people. But I do believe there could be a world with definitely less poverty, zero poverty, and I think one of the only ways to do it is through capitalism. Even though capitalism does have its flaws, but I do think it is definitely better than socialism. But socialism has the emotional arguments, which a lot of people definitely fall into, because capitalism is more realistic and says
it is more realistic.
Yeah, not everyone could,
But it's also kind of unfair. I think it kind of builds an unfair system for people who were born with these disadvantages. Like if you were born into a rich family, I was born into a poor family. For me to make my way up to at least where you started off, that would take a lot. But then again, it's not. I feel like that kind of sounds like lazy work.
It's not lazy work. You're completely right. There are people, if you're born into a small rural community in, let's say, Indiana, you're not gonna have as much opportunity as someone who was born in New York City, regardless of race or gender. However, whatever differences these two people have, just your location and the money you were born into diminishes.
Yeah.
But in a society like this, it gives that person from Indiana a higher chance of actually going and having a lot of social mobility throughout their lifetime. Because I do find myself through multiple times, I'm like, it should be like this. There should be no homeless people. There shouldn't be, no addiction. But you can't control possibly everybody. Everyone has their own behaviors. Everyone has their own traits. Everyone has their own habits. And I think what you do need is a system that rewards hard work and just creativity. Of course, some people don't have that, and some people who do work hard don't end up being the successful people. I'm sure there's someone who has worked hard as Steve Jobs, and no one even knows their name. and their name is just forever erased in the books of history. But
I mean, I think yes, I agree, but I also think that there's like some form of there's this system where that is designed for kids who are born in impoverishing
yeah,
communities,
impoverished like societies.
yes. The system that kind of fails them. It doesn't teach them the proper skills, maybe like basic skills that would kind of help them out in the real world, and so it keeps them in this endless cycle of once I have kids and it's going to be the same for them, so there's no point of even trying, if that makes sense.
Because they don't see any hope for.
Well, yeah, they basically see almost no hope,
Interesting.
I would say.
Yeah, but in a society like this, I mean, you've stayed in America for a pretty long time. Like, what do you think the situation is? And since maybe you have your background in your home country, like, what's the difference in like system-wise between these two countries that you?
Well, it is completely different. I came here when I was like 5, I believe. So there's almost like, and I haven't gone back. So
And you don't remember anything.
No,
yet.
I remember some things.
Uh-huh.
I think the president that my country has now is completely better than what it was before.
Who is he?
I forgot his name. I just remember how he looks, and I remember
Salvador, right?
Some of the things that he has done.
Nayib Bukele, I think that's his name.
Yes.
Was he,
Nayib Bukele. Yeah, he's a young man. I was watching a video of him yesterday. It's really interesting to see how this plays out because he's a young guy. He doesn't look presidential as a lot of people would say, but yeah, I do hear about Salvador a lot and how the gangs control the area, and it's basically they're kind of buddy with some government officials, and corruption is really rampant in the country. But let's say if you compare a place like that from El Salvador to the United States,
I mean, it's not as bad as what it used to be before this president came in. He has done a lot of work, that has helped the country.
Yeah.
But comparing, I don't think you should compare countries like El Salvador to a place like United States because it's two completely
different cultures,
two completely time.
Yeah, that's true. I know what you mean.
Like, El Salvador is like, it's still a developing country. So I don't know. I feel like it would be hard to compare El Salvador to the United States because obvious is that the United States gives you more opportunities than you'll find in El Salvador. I mean, that's the reason we came here in the first place, right?
Do you think the United States is a great country?
I think the United States is great in certain aspects, not in all.
What?
Personally, I want to move from the United States if I ever get the chance. But I think the United States, it can bring a lot of possibilities and like opportunities, but it's very difficult.
What aspects of the country don't you like?
I mean,
there are a lot. I think the United States is a great country, but I definitely think there are some things that are truly horrible.
No, there is a lot of horrible things. I mean, it's very business orientated. In comparison to like the comparison to El Salvador. Because I don't know, I'm not very driven by by money.
No, really?
No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say that I am. And so like I feel like this is just not the country that fits who I am. I would prefer to go back to El Salvador if I ever had the chance.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, even though I don't remember much of it, but I guess the greenery and stuff.
That's true.
That kind of attracts more of my attention than, a country that's like so driven by
money.
Yeah, basically.
And profit and
yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's not. I don't know. I feel like, of course, money is a social construct created by humans, and so like the same way we created, we can eliminate it as well, even though that would be stupid. But Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, El Salvador definitely looks like more of a culture where community is definitely prioritized, unlike here.
There's a lot of community there.
Yeah, and the United States is more of an individual
Yes, yeah.
culture. It's more individualistic.
Mhm.
But like, what changes?
I think it's more of like survival of the fittest. Here is like you get the community you're born into. You get the you get the community you're born into, and then you have to work with what you got, kind of thing. In the United States, I mean, in El Salvador, it's more of like the person right across the street is more of like a family member to you, even if you don't know the person. It's like it's a warm welcome if you step into countries like that. Even though you hear a lot about gang violence and stuff like that, there's a lot of good to it. Apart from that, there's a lot of good within the country. You know, even like Africa. I think if I can go anywhere in the world, it would be Africa.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, you're welcome. All the time. Go to Nigeria.
That's because it's so abundant in culture. You get to experience you get to experience these different cultures, and like experiences that feel like warm to the human experience, because it's like an embracing of people instead of like your physical
isolation, or
like how much can you give me kind of thing,
your worth.
What can you bring to the table? It's not that kind of place.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's more of like, here, this is what I am bringing you to the table, even if you can't bring anything back.
Yeah,
kind of thing. I like things like that. It's nice. It seems nice, I guess.
Yeah, you're totally correct. I definitely think it's a south-north thing. If you go to Europe and America, these countries tend to have more just like me. Well, if you go down south, like South America or in Africa, and even some Asian countries too, they tend to be more, hey, nice to meet you, and they want to be with you. It's truly, you truly feel at home. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things. Let's say in America, let's say the way the streets are constructed, where you need a car to go everywhere, like that isolates a lot of people. Just the way society physically is constructed, it tends to isolate a lot of people. I do hope for more, like, more cities that are. I mean, in Europe too, they have cities where you bike it everywhere, but still a lot of people still are.
It is different,
yeah. Individual.
It's more like they see the person they see the person before they see what the person is wearing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but what changes would you like to, or what do you think would benefit everybody as a whole in society?
What do you mean exactly?
Like what good thing do you expect for us to accept, or what good policy do you think will help everybody?
I don't know.
Like, what change would you bring? What change would you bring to the world, basically, in a more general sense?
And that's.
Or do you hope? Do you think?
I mean, I would say just trying to be more accepting of people, and like, I guess kindness brings you a long way. Empathy. I would say that.
Empathetic.
Yes.
You don't see it now?
I don't see it. No, I would not say it. I would not say I see it now. I think everyone goes about their decisions based on what benefits them instead of what benefits the outside forces, I guess.
Aren't you all selfish though?
Yeah, that's why I would say there's no such thing as altruism. That's altruism.
Altruism.
I wouldn't say there's such. I don't think there's such thing as a selfless act, because I think all acts kind of
selfish.
They're
self-serving.
Self-serving. Yes. Exactly.
I was really thinking about this the other day, because if I give someone, a homeless man, food, it from the outside it does look like a selfless act, but in the inside.
Well, this made me feel nice.
Exactly. Yeah, so I don't think there's such thing as altruism.
Yeah, exactly. I would say so.
Yeah, but definitely a society where everyone kind of looks up for each other would be more nicer, empathetic. because, I mean, as you said, in the society that we live in, it's more for cutthroat competition.
Yes.
If you're not good enough, you don't belong here, or like why would you talk to me if you're not bringing value to me? Empathy is, yeah, because a lot of people do say altruism, be nice, be kind, be this and that. Of course, you should be kind and nice, but I feel like all humans are selfish to the core, and I think there's something in history too. Adam Smith, he said that being selfish makes society good, because he gave this example of a butcher and the consumer or something. He said the butcher doesn't make or cut the meat for you because he wants to. He cuts the meat because he wants your money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's. Would you agree that's like how society functions forever and always?
For sure, I think so. I think everyone just everyone just looks out for themselves. It's like survival of the fittest kind of thing.
But let's say in the country, all these countries like let's say El Salvador and Africa.
I think there's a lot of selfishness going on there. Like even for the president, even though he's doing all these great things, it's more of like creating this image of I'm a good president kind of thing.
That is true. Politics is something it's
like creating a self-image for the world.
Go. Yeah, exactly.
Just choose me again kind of thing.
So you believe humans are flawed from the beginning?
What do you? Yeah, I think humans became flawed once we began to establish all these different ideologies,
Like what ideologies?
Well, like the idea of money and class and race and all these different things that kind of formulate what society is. I think that's when we started to develop these harmful, intoxicating beliefs. Yeah.
But don't you think if humanity was to start all over again, somehow some astro came in and did us like the dinosaurs, wouldn't we still create this?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it is necessary, right?
I think it's our curse of knowledge. A curse of knowledge,
What do you mean a curse of knowledge?
I don't know how to explain it, but I don't know. I feel like once we're able to understand that maybe I can manipulate an entire society based on this one idea that I implemented from the beginning of time, then, there it goes. Everything is just bound to happen as how it's happening now and how it has happened.
Would you say something like religion, an example like that?
I think before you can make a concrete statement that yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. Because a lot of people definitely see, I mean, as humans in general, if we started all over again, I think religion is something that for sure, it's something that's going to be relevant to society and something that's going to be relevant to ourselves, because humans definitely tend to seek certainty.
Yeah.
And they do that in, of course, religion. Why do we die? Why are we born, And people want to make sense of all these things that are truly unknown. We truly don't know if we're the only people on Earth. I mean, in the universe. We truly don't know what happens when we die. But then we tend to use religion to kind of make us, I guess, comfortable with the unknown. And we convince ourselves, like, yes, this is heaven and hell. Also, is heaven and hell something like a social construct too?
It's more of an idea born through religion. I mean, I was raised in a Catholic family.
Yeah.
But I did kind of navigate through different religions, kind of try to understand different points of views. And now I wouldn't consider myself a religious person. I don't because I feel like once you begin to identify with a religion, you kind of close out, different ideas, So I wouldn't say I'm a religious person, but I do think religion is a beautiful thing. I don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of things that have been immorally wrong done in the name of religion, but I think it also can bring out a beautiful part of humans.
That is true. I heard the story of, the book you have here, Message for Me, and there's Jewish people who were suffering through the Holocaust. They always seek refuge in God, and they always prayed. And it's really interesting because I thought, if something bad really happens, you're getting tortured every day, you're getting dehumanized. I'm surprised that they didn't lose faith in God, because they could have easily just said, why is this happening to me? Why did God let this happen to me? But instead, their faith in God got stronger.
Yeah, it says something about the world can take anything from you except your ability to...
Your attitude.
Sorry?
Your attitude.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Or like your core, your core beliefs. It's an interesting book.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah.
I actually read it because of my communications class that I took my first semester of college. It's one of the best classes I took, honestly. It was very, yeah, my professor was more of like spiritual
hippie
approaches. Yeah, basically.
You said hippie, yeah?
But yeah, I don't know. I think having a solid foundation of some form of faith kind of helps you get through life and hardships. I would say. I think so. At least, now that I don't really identify much with religion. I kind of more have like an existentialist view of all my decisions are purely my decisions, and I create my own attitude and my own response to all my exterior encounters,
But you do have
something
faith,
like
though.
that. No, I do have faith. I do believe there is a God.
Yeah.
I do believe there's a higher power, but I don't know what that higher power is.
Interesting. Yeah, because a lot of people tend to have their own their communal higher power. So let's say the Christians have Jesus, and the Muslims have Allah, and the Jewish have... Who do the Jewish have? Oh my God. There's a specific name.
I forgot,
But a specific name of the Jewish.
My boss is actually Jewish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone has this, as well, Buddhists. I don't think they have him.
They look up to, I think, Siddhartha.
Siddhartha, yes. Yeah, everyone has their own communal god.
And then the Hindus, they have like...
They have a lot of gods.
They have a lot of gods. I can't...
Yeah, that's crazy, because I think religion is definitely something that's going to exist forever in human society.
Yeah.
I don't think... A lot of people will say atheism is coming up, but atheism,
yeah.
Atheism or agnosticism is coming up in society, but I really don't think it's going to take as much or have as much of an impact as, let's say, something like Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or whatever said language you like.
I think atheism.
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 Yeah.
And I think maybe at one point it may overpower religion, I would say. I remember I went to church sometime last year, and the priest was talking about, he sees such a big difference now in the church community, where he no longer sees teens and children attend mass. It's like
older,
and now it's just the older generations there, and it's like the community, instead of growing, it's becoming shorter, it's smaller,
So I don't think atheism is something that's going to take a hold or going to gain that much momentum, because people or humans usually are going to have some type of God, and we like to be in a community.
Yeah.
So, or if you believe in this God or believe this X, Y, and Z, and this other person believes in X, Y, and Z, then we kind of band together, and that has produced religions such as Islam or Christianity, because we believe in the same things, or this person convinced me to believe in this thing. But atheism, I think, the whole entire world as a whole, maybe, I wouldn't say America, and America is not a religious society compared to our respective countries like El Salvador and Nigeria. I wouldn't say America is a super religious country, because from the start, the Constitution said there should be a separation. What did it say, sir? But there's this idea there should be a separation of state and religion. The church shouldn't be have or creating policies for the people, like let's say in Europe in the 1600s, before the Enlightenment period. But I think God is always something that's going to be in people's mind, and it's something that always people are always going to use to seek guidance. The fact that atheism, I wonder, I like to see the history of atheism. I wonder if something, I know I think people definitely have believed in no gods before, like a long time ago.
Yeah. No, I think there always was a form of belief system.
Yeah.
Even before the establishment of churches and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But I would say that within our generation, I think there's more of an embarrassment to come out as a religious person now, than it was before.
That's interesting. I like to see how
You
it
wouldn't.
plays out.
You don't
I would say so, but I wonder how our parents were like when they were our age. I wonder if they were super duper religious, or maybe they had it was the exact same trend. Like if you're the religious dude, you're probably a loser, but as time goes on and as you experience life, you tend to become more religious. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have had their phases of, or their beliefs, or their friends where you think, oh, you go to church every day, dude, you're such a loser. But then as life, and as you have kids and you experience death of a loved one, maybe they change their mind and like, okay, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be so ignorant.
I mean, for me, I was born in a Catholic household.
Yeah.
And at one point I was like, let me give this an actual try. Let me actually try and actually listen to what the priest would say. And I started going to these like small meetings between me and the priest where we would just like speak on different topics. And I just never found myself being able to align my own beliefs with the church beliefs. And I always felt like out of place within the church.
Yeah.
So I was like, this isn't for me, kind of thing. And then it's funny because my brother decided to take the route of becoming a more religious person than I became. But of course, again, I am open up to religion, and I wouldn't mind going to a Buddhist temple or going to Catholic mass or, any form of service, just to get that experience. Because I think religion is a beautiful form to bring out this. I don't know. I just think religion is something very beautiful in humans.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some aspects of religion that is truly nice to see. How people have faith, even regardless. Let's say their child dies, and they still cling on to this thing that supposedly had failed them this one time. But I like to see, especially with something like us being in society, be able to control something natural,
right?
Like gender. Someone in 1600s couldn't control gender like we can now. We could use surgery and cut parts out, add parts, remove parts, or even something like controlling genes on birth. There's this system called CRISPR. It's I think biology, where you could choose, or in the future you could be able to choose the color of your child's eyes. So this type of things that come up, I wonder how religion would fare against it as technology really truly becomes engraved in society.
I mean, I feel like at that point you're just like playing with God.
Yeah.
You're kind of just like, God, I'm not gonna let you do your work. I'm gonna, or nature, I'm not gonna let you do your work. I wanna choose, kind of thing.
So maybe religion would definitely lose some momentum if technologies like these are, I could do.
But that's just insane, though. Like being able to choose these small parts of a human being, and like being able to choose the hair color, the eyes, the skin, all of this. That's insane. I mean, it's interesting that we've come so such a long way
yeah.
to be able to do this, but it's also like I don't feel like it's completely correct, you know.
But,
now it's just like being so biased, you know.
Yeah.
You're kind of just like messing with nature now.
Okay, so let's say to what extent can we change things? So let's say someone who had no hands, should we be allowed to add hands to that baby because the no hands was God's work?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like there you can back up both points, because like at one point you can say like, does having no hands make you less valuable of a human being? Like, why? You kind of you get what I mean?
Wait, does it though? Does having no hands?
I don't think so. I mean, of course you're gonna have some problems trying to get around, but your life is not less valuable than mine just because I have hands. Okay. You are still alive.
Yeah, so why should we add hands to you, even though...
I mean, if you want to...
I mean, you don't know. It's a baby.
Oh, it's a baby.
I mean, it's still in the womb, so
okay.
It's the mother and the
I mean, if you give...
father.
I think you can give... I don't know. I think that's just a individual choice at that point. You know?
Of the parents to add... No, I'm saying that the parents...
It's so difficult because then it can be the parents' choice, but then again, the choice of the baby is getting taken away.
Wait, oh yeah, that is true, because who are you to tell me if I need hands? Or something...
Like the thing I was telling you about the genitalia, it's called the ambiguous genitalia surgery, where a child may... hold on.
You can switch it up. I was going to ask you something like gender.
Says ambiguous genitalia is a rare condition in which an infant's external genitalia doesn't appear to be clearly either male or female, and so they're called intersex people. So the baby may have the characteristics of both female and male, and this is a surgery that's performed when a baby comes out of the mother, right? And so the parent gets to choose the sex of the baby, and the baby may never find out that it probably was born with two sexes, and the parent decided to choose the sex of a female or the sex of a male.
Okay, but
it's part of the program. The doctor cannot tell the doctor doesn't even jot that down on their records either.
Yeah,
and that's insane. That's kind of just like messing with nature. There's these people who are born intersex. That's just what it is, and now I have to. It's like we're so fixated on trying to categorize everything, and so once you're born into the middle of two different categories, it's like, where can I fit you?
That's true.
I have to fit you somewhere.
But the thing is, it's a rare occurrence. It doesn't happen often, and usually when a child is born, of course, it's a simple thing. But when this happens, it's like, okay, you're right. It's a label, but I wonder if there's a medical reason why they choose to put them in whatever labels, boy or girl.
Yeah.
I wonder, because they'll be like, oh, or it could be a social thing too, which is probably, that's a good reason for that, because I want my child to fit into the boy or girl category. Yeah. But you just said something about playing God, but when people do change the genders intentionally, isn't that playing God too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, because there's some people like truly they're like, okay, I do believe in God, but
then again, I feel like that's just like sometimes you just was born into a body that it just doesn't fit what you feel like you are. You're comfortable in your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable in my body.
Yeah, but there's some people.
But some people are just not comfortable in their body.
But that goes against the concept of God, then, because they say God. Because God don't make no mistakes. So who are you? That's the thing. That's why a lot of people, I do believe a lot of people, it's something new in society, which in general, if anything new to society comes, it goes through its trials
I
and
don't think it's
tribulations.
new.
They're transgender.
I think it's just more out in the public now. Like
Oh,
I told
yeah.
you, like the Native American,
Oh, yeah.
the indigenous community, they have this third sex called the two-spirit.
Okay, I agree. Yeah,
You
you're
know,
right.
it's-
But what if like the surgery part though is something new to society, where you could cut your penis off
Yeah.
and have a vagina and grow a breast, and they inject you with hormones to make you more.
I think
woman.
that's just to make you feel more comfortable within your body. That's
Interesting.
really it, I guess.
Because it definitely cannot be the two things. It has to be one or the other. You can't, a transgender person definitely cannot believe God doesn't make no mistakes and change their gender because.
What about fishes? What about animals? I think it's found more in fishes, like the clownfish that changes sex as well.
Oh really?
They change sex, and there's this other forgot hold on. Yeah, the clownfish, the bearded dragon, vertebrates, banana slugs, wrasses, they are able to change their sex. And that's.
I wonder how that works. Cause they can't do surgery. I mean, I don't know how.
It was actually mentioned in the podcast I was listening to.
Yeah. That these animals could change sex too.
Yeah, they sometimes. I think I would have to show you the podcast.
Okay, I'll take a listen. But do you think we should look at animals and kind of apply their behavior to us since we're more intelligent than them? In general, too.
I mean, we use animals for most of the experiments and medicine, right?
Yeah. So you think it's just? I'm saying though, should we mirror them? Like, let's say.
Who else are we gonna mirror ourselves to?
I mean, nobody, because there's no one like
Frogs?
us. I mean, there's no one like us. Or maybe you could say, I don't know, dolphins or octopuses who are intelligent animals.
I
But
mean, the
humans are
closest
truly-
relatives we have right now are the chimpanzees. So, but trying to do I always found that kind of weird. Like, why is it acceptable to do experiments on mice, but not acceptable to do experiments on chimpanzees? Even though I'm like completely against, experimenting on
animals in period general. Yeah, because that's a good question. Maybe I guess mice are just easier, cheaper to get or something.
Yeah,
whatever.
but
And they're smaller. But
there's-
chimpanzees are our relatives compared to
there are
mice.
alternatives to these researches done on animals. I read something about it, but I don't really remember exactly.
Yeah. It's a lot of ethical issue on it too. But there have been some human experiments. I think it's this thing called the Stanford Experiments.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah. I don't know the exact details, but there were people who were placed in roles, and a lot of people took advantage of the roles they were placed in. And
Vitro methods. That's what it's called.
what is it called?
Vitro methods.
Oh, what is that?
It says these alternatives of animal testing include sophisticated tests using human cells and tissues, known as vitro methods. It's an advanced computer modeling technique, often referred to as silico models, and studies with human volunteers. So I guess it's like the replication of human cells and tissues as an alternative to animal testing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because if we can't test on animals, then who can we test on? Because of course there needs to be some trials before, right?
That's
I mean-
1 year.
Huh?
What?
Huh? No, I mean, in the ideal world, I don't think we should test on animals.
But it's the closest we can really get to
Yeah.
testing on ourselves. Then again, I feel like it's so wrong,
Wrong. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about
It's
you.
wrong.
That's true. I do question.
But then
about that.
again, I don't even like eating animals as well.
Oh yeah, you don't eat animals. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, the way animals do get treated sometimes on Earth is definitely
Yes.
a horrible thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you're right. They can't defend themselves, or people use them for prized possessions, like
Exactly.
the tusk of the rhinoceros. Yeah, I think that's how it's pronounced. People kill them,
Rhinoceros.
rhinoceros, and they just kill them and sell it, whatever. Or an elephant, just relaxing. Yeah, for their trunks to sell.
And it's the rhino tusk. People started doing that because they believed that it would help the male penis grow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what they started doing, in order to defend these animals, they started injecting some form of toxin into their tusk. Into their yeah. Is it yeah, their
tusk. Yeah, tusk.
I think that's what it's called.
Mm.
Anyways, into the the horn, in order to prevent these hunters from killing them for
money. And it's sad. But then at what point do we stop? Because we do kill chickens and we do inject them and we eat beef and we inject cows.
Yeah.
We eat basically everything. Dogs too, cats, everything. And it's, I mean, for me, I think it's just the thing that you kill should be killed in a humane way, and you shouldn't let the thing suffer.
Is there a human way to kill anything that doesn't want to die?
Wait, how do you know a cow doesn't want to die?
Why would they want to die?
No, I can't read a cow's mind.
How many cows have you seen walk into a slaughterhouse willingly?
They could be depressed, you never know. But just mask it as happiness.
Like, I don't think you can kill anything that doesn't want to die humanely.
But you do eat animals, and of course we do need to. But
I think it's impractical and like almost not impractical, but almost impossible to create a all vegetarian diet world.
Yeah, that's not happening. You could say in advanced countries like the United States, or in the West in general, but in the East or down south.
Once you start seeing diets of predominantly greens, you can start seeing a lot of diseases to kind of lower.
Yeah.
I think.
I like to see how. One of the things I would like to see how history judges us on is the consumption of meats in general, because I know especially during this coronavirus thing, we tend to look at the Chinese and say, why are you eating bats and stuff like that, but who are we to tell them why are they eating bats? Some Hindu person could curse us out and saying, why are we eating cows, because they're such a sacred entity to them, and we're just out here eating burgers and everything, like nothing.
Did you know that processed meat is actually classified as a number 1 class carcinogen?
Yep, and I must still eat them.
That's insane.
And I must still eat them.
And we still eat them. It's like we know all these foods that we eat are like bad for our health, and yet we continue to consume them because
they're good.
They're cheap.
They're cheap and good.
But is it good, or is the seasoning good?
It tastes as good, and that's all that matters.
Actually, I think it is the seasoning. I don't think it's purely the meat itself.
But no, if you kill a cow, it's gonna taste good. Of course, you're gonna add seasoning, but
you're gonna add seasoning.
You have to add seasoning. But shit, humans have eaten meat without seasoning, for a long time. So it's like, I mean, I don't think there's anything else other than meat where you put seasoning in it and it's like that good as chicken or meat. You can't vegetables are they're good, but meat, that's where the thing is, in my opinion. But let's talk about you writing, and of course, I've seen some of your writings on Instagram, and you are a literature savant, as I would say.
What?
So yeah, why do you write and stuff? Because I do read books, but I'm not a literature person. I don't read Mark Twain or whoever, or like these novels.
Why do I write?
Oh yeah, there has to be a reason for everything.
I actually started writing. I started writing in like the beginning of high school. I had this friend. His name is Siobhan. I think you know him. He had introduced me to his poetry, and I was like, "Whoa, this is actually really cool." He was, "You should give it a try."
Yeah.
I wrote my first poem then, and I sent it to him that same night. And I was like, "This makes me feel good," because it's like I didn't know what I was writing, but I just wrote, and it was kind of about like what I was feeling, and I was like, wow, this is nice. And so I continued writing, and I never really shared my writing until like the end of high school, and I decided to make like my own Instagram writing page, which I kind of have put aside currently. But I don't know. I think when I write, I guess I write more for myself in order to like better understand myself once you see it on paper. Because sometimes like you have all these thoughts, and so putting it on paper is more like a visual way to see them.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
of course, it's like when I write, the things that I post isn't like my first draft. You know, I kind of sometimes I just like write little words, you know, and kind of just like try to expand it into a more sensible story or poem.
Okay. Wait,
So-
why did you stop your, or why did you put it aside?
I've actually started. I haven't told anyone. So I recently started writing, trying to start my own book.
Oh, what book?
I'm not gonna share the title.
It's okay. This podcast is gonna bring a lot of reach for the 2 people who are gonna listen to it.
No, it was, you know, I actually had started writing my own book like in middle school, but then I lost everything, and I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what, I think I should give this a shot again. And so I had started again. I wasn't planning on really telling anyone, but
It's
yeah,
out.
and it's out. It's more poetry based. I kind of want, because I think poetry is a little more something more smoother to go with as a first book instead of like writing a novel. I would try that for a second book, but yeah, it's more of like a collection of poems and kind of like describe this small story within poetry.
Is it like rupee?
No, it's not.
It's not, because I thought it was like honey and gold. Honey and gold, right?
No, milk.
Honey and
honey,
milk.
milk and honey.
Oh yeah, milk and honey. So is it something like that? Because I think that's a collection of.
It's sort of. Yeah, I guess to put into simple terms, yes, it would be something like that. It's so funny that you compare it to her.
Yeah, because I mean I've never read that book, but I saw a lot of people, especially my senior year, they were reading it.
Everyone read it. I was like one of the first people that started reading it, and I was like, oh, she's good.
Yeah.
And then everyone started reading. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it doesn't feel special when a lot of people are
It
reading
doesn't
it.
feel special anymore.
Do you like, or do you have any favorite authors
Oh yes.
that you read?
Albert Camus. I love his books.
What books does he have?
He's like an existentialist writer. And then I like this guy who wrote Four Agreements. I forgot Paulo
Coelho, who also
I forgot.
yeah.
I forgot his last name. Paulo.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Albert Camus would be like. Oh, and Kate Chopin.
What book?
She wrote The Awakening. I love that book.
Oh,
It was so good.
there are authors like James Patterson or Stephen King who are like top authors of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at one point in time, I'd like to get into more of novels and books that they write, because Stephen King, his run and a
Stephen
lot
King?
of movies. Yeah, Stephen. I like to read.
He's very popular.
Yeah, and James Patterson. I read James Patterson, his books for children when I was like in middle school, but lately I don't usually read novels. But Albert Camus, what do you mean he's a
Existentialist writer.
what does that mean?
It's like, you ever read The Stranger?
Nope. Is this like
So
an
it's like-
idea?
Yeah, it's like, so like the idea is that people are kind of like in control of their own life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything that comes about through decisions and like these small projects that lead you to the fate of death, sort of. It's just like everyone's responsible for their own actions
I like that.
and choices.
That's what I like
you
the culture about here too. Sorry to cut you off, but that's what I like the culture about America too, where it's you. You know, you're the guide of your life. You know, you shape your destiny. That's something I do like about this country, where it's everything is on you. But continue.
But yeah, I think it's a good way of living, kind of just like emphasizing this idea of like free choice. You know, like you're ultimately free to do whatever you please to do. You just have to be responsible for the consequences that come with the choices. You know.
That's interesting.
Because I feel like sometimes we make choices and then we don't want to be responsible for the consequences that are tied to them.
Yep. And there are always consequences with everything that we do, good or bad. Yeah. You know, there's always trade-offs, I would say, with everything. You know, you can't have everything in life. You can have the life where everything you've experienced. There's some things that you have to kind of miss out on, or some things that you have to sacrifice. Mm-hmm. But I like the idea of existentialism. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was this book I read, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
The what?
The Subtle Arts.
Yes.
Of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. But he just said that life happens, but we are always responsible for. We're always responsible. So it doesn't matter if even you controlled it or you didn't control it, but you're always responsible. So let's say someone cuts you off the road, you are responsible for how you react. If someone, I don't know, parks in your parkway, you are responsible for everything. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't control it, or like even went as far as saying if someone's son died and he told them, like, he was going to tell them you're responsible for how you react and how you cope with everything.
Would you say react? I think there's a difference from react and respond. I think react is more of like something that just happens, like a reaction. Like someone.
It's fast, reflex.
Yeah, it's more like reflex, and the response is something that you kind of analyze and.
Oh, okay, yeah. But he did say that you're responsible for basically everything, and there's this other idea of where we don't control everything in our life, like where we're born or who our families are, but we do have some reins over how our life goes, like whether you get up in the morning and go to work, that's all you. There's certain things that you do, or let's say, I don't know, let's say you get, God forbid, like something bad happens to you and you lose a leg or something. Like you could control your attitude, as the book says, the message for meaning. You control how your mindset changes because of this incident that happens. So I think it's a really good idea that a lot of people do need to adopt, because a lot of people tend to just let life happen and they don't truly take the reins.
I think we take responsibilities for the good things in life,
but the bad things, that is something. But thank you, Elsy. Okay, this is just something I like to ask. Like, let's say the whole world was listening to you right now. What would you like to say?
Oh my God.
No pressure.
Oh man. I don't know. That's
7 billion people. 7 billion plus.
7 billion people. My goodness. That's a lot of pressure. He said no pressure. It's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. A lot of people. A lot of people said a lot of different things. Like I think someone said be nice to each other.
Pain is temporary. Swag is forever.
All right, that's it. Elsy Martinez. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast episode, and we out. Bye.